Imagine you're digging through a jar of old change, pulling out handfuls of tarnished, copper-colored metal. You're looking for something special, a piece of American history that shouldn't exist. You brush off the grime from a 1978 Jefferson nickel, flip it over to admire the classic view of Monticello, and suddenly, your heart skips a beat. The building is gone. Or, more accurately, the details you expect to see are just missing. You might be holding one of the most debated ghosts of the numismatic world. For over 8 decades, the Jefferson nickel has been a staple of American currency. Since 1938, the face of the third president has stared out from our pockets, with his beloved Virginia estate, Monticello, gracing the reverse. But in the world of coin collecting, it's the mistakes that turn a 5-cent piece into a small fortune. And the legend of the No Monticello 1978 nickel is a story that has kept collectors awake at night, searching through thousands of coins, hoping to find that one elusive anomaly. But here is the truth that the forums won't always tell you. The No Monticello 1978 nickel isn't a government-sanctioned rarity like the 1943 copper cent or the 1933 double eagle. It is something much more mysterious. To understand why this specific coin causes such a frenzy, we have to travel back to the production floor of the late 1970s. By 1978, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were churning out hundreds of millions of nickels. The process was highly automated, precise, and monitored. Yet, the human element, or sometimes the mechanical failure, is where the real stories are written. When we talk about No Monticello nickels, we are entering the realm of major mint errors. You see, a coin is essentially a metal disc, a blank or planchet, that gets smashed between 2 hardened steel dies at incredible pressure. One die holds the portrait of Jefferson. The other holds the image of Monticello. If the machine is running perfectly, you get a beautiful, crisp image every time. But what happens when the die is worn down, clogged with grease, or damaged? Sometimes, a die becomes so filled with debris, oil, metal shavings, and dust that the recessed details of the design simply fail to transfer onto the metal. The image of the building effectively vanishes into a smooth, featureless field of nickel copper. To a novice, it looks like a damaged coin, something scratched or filed down. But to a seasoned collector, a genuine grease-filled die error is a masterpiece of industrial malfunction. The mystery of the 1978 No Monticello is that it represents a snapshot of chaos in an otherwise perfect system. These coins are often misidentified, and that's where the thrill of the hunt comes in. Many people find a worn-down nickel in their change, see that the building is faint, and think they've struck gold. They rush to eBay, they post it on forums, and they dream of early retirement. But the real No Monticello coins, the ones that are legitimately missing the details because of a massive, dramatic die fill error, are remarkably rare and can command surprising prices. But there's a darker, more cynical side to this treasure hunt. Because there is so much misinformation online, a cottage industry has sprung up around selling damaged coins as errors. A coin that has been sanded down, acid-etched, or simply worn smooth by 40 years of circulation is not the same as an error from the mint. Learning to tell the difference is the first step toward becoming a true numismatist. You have to look for the ghosting, the subtle, sunken outlines where the building should be, versus the flat, lifeless appearance of human-made damage. Think about the history etched into that 1978 nickel. That was the year of the Camp David Accords, the year the first test tube baby was born, and a time when disco was peaking and the world felt like it was changing at breakneck speed. That coin was spent at a grocery store, used to buy a pack of gum, or lost under a car seat. It survived. It passed through thousands of hands, witnessed decades of change, and somehow escaped the melting pot. So why does this matter? Why do we care about a 5-cent piece that is missing a building? Because collecting is about more than the metal. It's about the hunt. It's about the hope that you, in your living room, could find a piece of history that slipped past the finest quality control systems in the world. It's the thrill of finding order in the middle of chaos. When you hold a legitimate error coin, you aren't just holding currency. You are holding a wrong moment in time that was frozen forever. If you are out there hunting for these ghosts, my advice is simple. Get yourself a high-powered jeweler's loupe and a copy of the Cherry Picker's Guide. Don't believe everything you see in a blurry online photo. Look for the signs of a genuine struck error, the flow lines in the metal, the integrity of the surrounding letters, and the weight of the coin. The 1978 nickel might seem common. Millions were made. But in that sea of millions, a few were born imperfect. Those are the ones that tell the real story. They are the rebels of the mint, the survivors of the counting rooms. Have you ever looked at the loose change in your pocket and wondered if you were holding a fortune? Most people just see pocket change. But for the eagle-eyed collector, every coin is a potential mystery waiting to be solved. So go back to that jar. Check the dates, look for the anomalies, and keep your eyes sharp. That no Monticello ghost might just be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right person to notice. What's the most interesting coin you've ever found in your change? And what was the story behind it? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden world of numismatics. You never know what treasure you might find next. Imagine walking through a quiet, dusty estate sale, sorting through a bowl of common pocket change, the kind of stuff people leave in junk drawers for decades. Most of it is just copper and nickel, worth exactly what's stamped on the surface. But every so often, among the thousands of identical mass-produced coins, there is a ghost, a tiny metal anomaly that shouldn't exist. Today, we are looking at a coin that has haunted the dreams of numismatists for years, a piece of American history that exists in a strange, controversial limbo. We're talking about the 1981 P. Monticello nickel, an enigma wrapped in a mystery, often whispered about in the forums as the 981K variation. To understand why this specific nickel has caused such a stir, we have to travel back to 1981. It was an era of high inflation, a rapidly changing economy, and a time when the United States Mint was churning out millions of coins just to keep up with the daily friction of American commerce. The Jefferson nickel, featuring the third president of the United States on the obverse and his iconic Virginia home, Monticello, on the reverse, was as common as dirt. But 1981 was a pivotal year for the Philadelphia Mint. For most of the 20th century, Philadelphia minted coins didn't carry a mint mark. It was the silent mint, the mother facility where the tradition of coinage began. It wasn't until 1980 that the P mint mark finally made its debut on the nickel, signaling a change in how the government tracked its production. When collectors look at a 1981 P nickel, they are looking at a bridge between the old way of doing things and the modern era of absolute accountability. But here is where the story takes a sharp turn into the unknown. The term 981K isn't a standard designation you'll find in an official grading guide. Instead, it represents a fascination with the potential for error and the extreme rarity that collectors crave. You see, when the mint strikes millions of coins, the process is mechanical, brutal, and fast. Dies wear down, metal planchets are improperly fed, and occasionally human error creeps into the high-security vaults of the facility. What if I told you that there is a possibility, just a slim, electrifying possibility, that a small batch of coins left the Philadelphia facility with a mark so misplaced or so faint that it defied the standard grading process? The debate over the 1981 P. Jefferson nickel often centers on the clarity of that mint mark. On a perfect specimen, the P is crisp, sitting just to the right of Monticello. But if you're hunting through your change, you're looking for something else. You are looking for a shift. You are looking for a mark that looks like it was stamped by a trembling hand, or perhaps a ghost of a digit that shouldn't be there at all. This brings us to the allure of the error coin. Why do we care so much about a small piece of metal? It's not just about the money, though high-grade errors can fetch thousands at auction. It's about the hunt. It's the thrill of finding something that belongs in a museum, something that was supposed to be destroyed, melted down, and recycled into new coins, but instead escaped into the wild. Every time you flip a nickel, you are participating in a multi-generational game of treasure hunting that spans the entire country. Consider the history of Thomas Jefferson himself. He was a man of complex contradictions, a lover of architecture, a visionary, and a flawed statesman. By placing his home on the reverse of the nickel in 1938, the mint essentially gave every American citizen a small, tangible piece of Monticello. When you hold a 1981 nickel, You are holding an architectural marvel compressed into a 1-inch circle of metal. You are holding the weight of an era that saw the rise of personal computing, the shifting tides of the Cold War, and the transformation of the American middle class. But let's talk about the mystery of the 981K label. In the world of coin collecting, names like this often bubble up from the community. They are shorthand for a specific phenomenon. Sometimes it's a die variety. Sometimes it's a result of extreme environmental damage that mimics an error, leading people to believe they've found a fortune when they haven't. And that is the heartbreak of this hobby. You find a coin that looks off. You get your heart rate up. You think this is the day your life changes, only to find out it's a common variety worn down by years of circulation. But what if yours isn't? What if the strike was slightly off-center? What if the die was rotated? The difference between a common nickel and a life-changing discovery often comes down to 1/10 of a millimeter. That is the razor-thin margin between a handful of lint and a payday. If you are currently looking through a jar of old change, here is what you need to do. Don't look at the coin as a whole. Look at the details. Grab a magnifying glass, not a fancy one, a basic one will do, and focus on that P-mint mark. Is it centered? Is it clear? Is there any doubling around the letters or the numbers? Look at the date. Look at the steps on the base of Monticello. The steps are notoriously difficult to strike perfectly, and on a 1981 nickel, if you can see all 5 or even 6 steps of the portico clearly, you are looking at something significantly more valuable than the face value of 5 cents. There is a certain poetry to finding a valuable coin in a mundane place. It reminds us that history isn't just in textbooks. It's in our pockets. It's circulating through the economy, moving from hand to hand, witnessing the small, daily lives of millions of people. That 1981p nickel has likely been in a coffee shop in Seattle, a gas station in Texas, and a fountain in New York. It has lived a life that is completely invisible to us, and now it has landed in your care. Is there a 981K rarity out there waiting to be verified? The jury is still out. The numismatic community is notoriously tough on new discoveries, demanding rigorous proof, provenance, and authentication. But that skepticism is what makes a true discovery so monumental. It turns a piece of metal into a legend. Think about the sheer probability. Millions of nickels were produced in 1981. If just one was struck with a faulty die that created a unique visual anomaly, it would be a unicorn in the truest sense. It wouldn't just be a coin. It would be a survivor. It would be a testament to the idea that even in a system designed for absolute uniformity, chaos and individuality can still break through. So, the next time you are tempted to toss a handful of loose change into a jar, pause. Take a moment to look at the dates. Scan those mint marks. You are not just looking at currency. You are holding a piece of history that has traveled through time to reach you. Who knows? You might be the person who finally settles the debate, the person who holds the coin that the experts said couldn't exist. What is the most interesting coin you have ever found in your spare change? Have you ever had that heart-stopping moment where you thought you found something rare, only to be left wondering? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of numismatic mysteries, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We have plenty more stories to tell, and the next treasure might be hiding in your own pocket, waiting for you to find it. Stay curious, keep hunting, and I'll see you in the next video. Imagine you're digging through a dusty jar of change, sifting through the mundane silver-toned discs that pass through our hands every single day. Most of them are just 5 cents, a fleeting, almost weightless reminder of a transaction long forgotten. But what if one of those nickels wasn't just pocket change? What if, buried in the noise of millions of identical coins, you held a piece of metal worth a small fortune? Today, we're diving into the mystery of the 2021 Thomas Jefferson nickel, a coin that has sparked frantic searches in households across America, driven by whispers of massive value and the allure of the rare find. To understand the obsession, we have to travel back to 1938. That was the year the United States Treasury decided it was time for a change. They held a competition to replace the rugged, but notoriously difficult to strike, buffalo nickel. The winner was an immigrant artist named Felix Schlag. His vision was elegant. a dignified portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, and his beloved Virginia estate, Monticello, on the reverse. For over 80 years, this design has been the steady heartbeat of American currency. But in 2021, something shifted in the collecting community. You might have seen the clickbait headlines, claims of coins worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a classic story of viral misinformation colliding with genuine numismatic curiosity. The reality, as it often is far more nuanced, yet just as thrilling for those who know what to look for. The 2021 D. Jefferson nickel, struck at the Denver Mint, is a modern coin. Under normal circumstances, its value is exactly what the face indicates: 5 cents. However, collectors don't just look for dates. They look for the soul of the coin, the details that make one specific strike different from the millions of others minted alongside it. When we talk about the value of a 2021 D, we have to talk about the elusive full steps. Look closely at the image of Monticello on the back of the coin. Below the building, there are faint, horizontal lines representing the stairs leading up to the entrance. On most nickels, these are worn, mushy, or incomplete. But when a die is fresh and the strike is perfectly centered and powerful, those steps appear sharp, distinct, and complete. Collectors call this a full steps nickel, and in high-grade, uncirculated condition, these specimens are the holy grails of modern production. But what about the massive price tags that send people running to their piggy banks? Here is where we separate the myth from the treasure. You see, the coin market is a game of extremes. A standard 2021 D nickel in your pocket is worth exactly a nickel. But a 2021 D that has been professionally graded by services like PCGS or NGC and designated as an MS68 full steps is a different animal entirely. These are the result of near-perfect conditions, pristine handling, and a strike so crisp it looks like it was minted for a museum. Then, there are the errors. This is the true treasure hunter's territory. Occasionally, a die, the metal stamp used to strike the coin, suffers from a mechanical failure. It might shift, it might crack, or it might be engraved twice, creating a doubled die. When you see a 2021 D with a visible ghosting on the letters or a die break that looks like a scar across Jefferson's face, you aren't just looking at a nickel. You're looking at a mistake that escaped the eagle-eyed quality control of the U.S. Mint. These are the coins that collectors hunt with magnifying glasses and digital microscopes for hours on end. Why does this matter? Because history isn't just written in books. It's minted in metal. Every scratch, every variation, and every strike is a time capsule of a specific moment in time. When you hold that 2021 D, you are holding a tiny artifact of the Denver Mint's machinery, a witness to the final days of the pandemic-era economy, and a canvas for the potential of the extraordinary. So, here is my question to you. When you look at a handful of change, do you see money, or do you see history waiting to be discovered? That 2021 D sitting in your car cup holder or your kitchen junk drawer might not be a $100,000 windfall, but it is a piece of a story that spans nearly a century. Before you spend that nickel, take a second. Pull out your phone, use your camera's zoom, and look at those steps. Look at the lettering. Check the edges. You might not find a fortune, but you might just find a new obsession. And in the world of coin collecting, that is the greatest treasure of all. If you've ever found a coin that made your heart skip a beat, or if you're currently on the hunt for the perfect, full-step specimen, let me know in the comments below. What is the most unusual coin you've ever pulled from circulation? Subscribe and hit the bell because in our next episode, we're going to be looking at a coin with a mistake so legendary, it changed the way the mint operates forever. Until then, keep hunting and keep looking closely because you never know what history is hiding in your pocket.